fire this up. But we have no key. Hey guys, in today's episode we'll finish off the little tidbits that we had left over from last week. And then we'll start putting this thing back together. Hopefully get it all together in this episode. And then it looks like the weather smartened up. So fingers crossed. Enjoy this episode and tune in next week. And we'll probably finish this off. I almost forgot I had to paint these too, right? So on the driver's one, there's a thermometer mounted in here. And holy shit, have I ever seen a over-engineered thermometer holder. But anyway, you gotta pop these little clips out. Or depress those clips, shove this thing like this up front. And then remove the actual, come on, there we go. And then you can take this thing out of here. Man, oh man, that's pretty complicated there. Okay, I got these center caps prepped and cleaned and primed. These air inlets were a royal pain in the butt. Even after the paint stripper, I had to sand whatever was left and smooth it all out. So they're ready for priming. We'll prime them. And we'll have the bumper and the wheels finished. As you can see, I got these things primed with my high solid primer. Now we're gonna wet sand them. We're gonna use 600 grit paper, dry them off, and we'll base them and clear them today, and that'll be done. I wet sanded with actually 800 grit. I didn't have any 600 on hand. Now to paint these is going to be kind of a pain in the butt. The best way to paint these would be to hang them somewhere. I don't really feel like doing that, so I'm just going to wear a glove while I spray them so I can hold them. It's going to be hard to get into all those tight spaces. Also, I wiped them down with my final wipe. This stuff is awesome. Make sure you do that to get rid of any contamination. I also have my little AMG one that I need to paint. Base is down. We're just waiting for it to flash off. And we're gonna clear coat it. And there we go. The last part of the equation for the bumper and the wheels. I almost forgot. I have to paint these junkyard headlight trim pieces for the bottom, and I have to drill the hole for the wiper, headlight wiper. So the ones I got obviously don't have that hole. I got them from the junkyard. Beggars can be choosers. But, and this is a nice butt. This is the old one. There's a little undercut here. And this is the one from the junkyard. Has the undercut already, so all I have to do is drill a hole right in the center of this. Beautiful. One quick tip, if you want to get a nice through hole, I drilled them from the back. Use something as a base, so this sits flush on the base as you're drilling, so you don't get a ragged edge. Countersunk them just a little bit by hand. The reason I did that is so I can get good paint coverage here on this and not just have a little tiny lip that's covered in paint. Okay, I got these wet sanded, 600 grit, 800 grit, whatever. I got them washed down, ready for paint. We'll have to move them somewhere where there's no dust because I was cutting some stuff on the table today. So we'll base them and then we'll clear coat them. Okay, so these are done and clear coated. 3 coats of clear coat, 3 coats of base. Still a few rock chips coming through under the wet sand, but that's okay. I'm not shooting for perfection here. Alright guys, today we're gonna brush on some rust converter on this stuff. It's under the bumper, it's not visible, but we gotta nip this rust in the butt here before it starts to become serious. Then we're gonna apply the rust converter to it. I don't use the gel. So it's loud in here now, the compressor is going. So I'll apply it with a brush, and then we will brush it quite rigorously with another brush, and it should convert the rust immediately to like a black paintable surface that we can wash and dry and paint afterwards. See how this works. Okay, so I applied it, washed it, reapplied it, brushed it, and now we're gonna use a steam cleaner. To get rid of any of the contaminants and that rust converter stuff. Then we'll wash it down with paint prep, let her dry, and paint her. On that. So that's basically done now. I got it all blown out and dried out. Tape this up and we'll paint it. Front bumper, you can see all the other rust has been converted. I don't know about you guys, but I hate exposed wire looms, so we're gonna run that over the insulation I took off, and then we're gonna run it across here. Okay, that looks much better. Okay, I got that loom tidied up. As you can see, I wrapped it, then I put it into its original cover here. Got my covers back on. Like I said, we'll put this together. And I'll have to put it on the road, but we just got a whole bunch of snow outside. So I don't think I want to drive this in the snow. But today is a big day. We're going to lift this sucker back up and we're going to start reassembly on this front end here. All the rust is gone here. We'll start slapping her back together. Okay guys, so I mentioned to you this trunk was stuck closed. So how do you get into this trunk on a W202 when you can't, this doesn't do anything? So the way you get into it is by going through your folding seats. I mean, if you don't have folding rear seats like I do, then you're hooked. I don't know how that's done, but if you do, then you get in here. There's two little plastic covers here. You see, and this sits in there like that. So you take those two 10mm screws out, or bolts, and this will pop right up with the whole assembly. And that's how you get into this trunk. Now, if you want to take this assembly off, okay, so this is what it looks like before the disassembly. There's also a cover on it with two retainers. Pop that off first to get to your bolts. And this is what this looks like. There's the little covers to expose the 10mm bolts, and this pops up. Then this is all this nonsense air operated stuff here. so make sure you don't break this, especially if it's brittle. This one is actually pretty nice. This little clip here has a tiny little clip you have to kind of pull up on this. Right there's a little tiny hole. So you just pull up on this, this comes apart. And then to get the airline out, you likely need a special tool from Mercedes, but if you're really gentle and you take a very thin screwdriver, you can kind of see how they bend. Pop that open, bend the line one way, and then as you're pulling on it, pop all of these open. Just be careful not to damage the O-ring inside. Now we'll take this to the bench and see what the hell is wrong with this assembly up. There's a little sensor here. Just a switch. Pop this out. Pop that cable out. And there's two little tabs on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to press these from the back side here. So you put pressure on them from the top here. You have to put your screwdriver in between here and pop that last tab out. There. That's all she wrote there. So let's have a look, see inside. Oh! Pretty sure I know what's the problem here. It's all oxidized and rotten. Okay, so we'll free this up and see if it works. I ripped apart this whole thing because even though I got the mechanism to work, and the other part here, I freed that up, I still was not able to turn the key. So as you can see, there's a lot of crap in there. Let's take this off in order of importance. This, 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 and then this pops out. Don't lose the springs. And now we're gonna free all of this up. Hopefully we can do it. How did I free up the tumbler inside? See, this tumbler has a whole bunch of little springs inside there. They were all fused solid. Heat that sucker up, then take a screwdriver and poke these little elements in and out while using WD-40. Then heat it up again. Do this over and over, and hopefully you can save it. If not, you gotta go to Mercedes and pick up a new one. But I was able to free most of these up just by doing what I just said. I mean, this sucker is getting hot. There we go. That one's free, that one's free, that one's free. A little bit more. We'll cool her down again and we'll do the same thing again. Okay, what is the ultimate goal here? All of these have to be loose. When you put the key in, all of these get depressed, and then you can spin the tumbler inside. Yeah. So I'm probably at this already now for an hour. You can see all the springs are starting to work correctly. Yeah. Okay guys, so this is how this goes together. This tumbler to the top of there. And that's the order you're gonna put all this stuff in. One thing to remember is there's a little plastic retainer here that keeps the spring where it belongs. You need to keep it with this part, otherwise it won't line up later on and you won't be able to get the snap ring in. So let's go to town on this. Coincidentally, you know you've won when you put the key in and you can spin this. Then when you take the key out, there's only a certain spot the key will come out because these notches inside have to line up. So now it won't spin. Okay, I'm tired of this. This little notch has to face this little mechanism, or in the general direction anyway. So this has to line up with the notch inside. See the notch here on the plastic has to line up with the notch in there. Okay, so this kind of requires a couple people. 2 sets of hands would be nice because you need to press this snap ring in there. So she works. That's it. Doesn't really work as well as I wanted it to. It's a little tight. So for the amount of time this took, I was just curious if I could actually rebuild it. For the amount of time it took, I don't know what the price is of this tumbler new, but it might be worth just to go to Mercedes and pick one up. Anyway, I did rebuild it. It works. It locks, unlocks, everything works. But like I said, this took like almost 3 hours altogether, freeing all of those springs up and all that stuff. Might not be worth it for you guys. Okay, she's all back together. Look at that. I can open my trunk now. And there's the key. That's it. Woohoo, she works. Good stuff. Also, I just plugged in the battery. And it also unlocks and locks all the doors like it's supposed to. So now it's unlocked. Now beauty. Actually, honestly, I didn't even think this was gonna work because this tumbler is a little tight in there. As you can see, it's locked right now. You can either unlock all the doors with the trunk or you can do vice versa. The doors are locked right now. And we'll go back to the trunk. And look at that. She works. Beauty! Also guys, I got this antenna freed up. It doesn't go all the way in, but I'm gonna call it good. There was a little bit of, this was a little bit uneven here when I was fixing it, so I didn't want to force it back in there for it to get stuck, but she works right now. Look at that. So the way to do this is, most of the time from my experience with these old Benzes and Beamers and whatever has these power antennas, the motor is always good. It's just either it blows the fuse because it can't push the antenna out, or it just kind of sits there, does nothing and times itself out. What happens is this gets completely oxidized and it just seizes, right? So the way to do this is spray penetrant
lots and lots and lots of penetrant, right? Like liquid wrench or WD-40. And then what you want to do is you want to grab a part of it and move it up and down. I don't want to do this anymore, but it works. The only thing to remember is, see here, I actually damaged it a little bit. That's why it doesn't hide all the way in. When you want to put force on it, because obviously you can't grab it with your finger and yank it up and down to free it up, right? So spray it with penetrant, keep spraying with penetrant every couple hours as you're working on something else. And then I actually had this sticking out about halfway. So what I did is I took a rubber mallet and I kept gently tapping on this until I saw any movement, just minute movement, right? Once you see some movement, then you're golden. Keep spraying penetrant, and eventually you'll be able to move this by hand. So it pays to, or it's easier to have a second person in the car turning on the antenna on and off as you're trying to pull it up and down. So it's kind of a pain in the butt, but if you want to save yourself some money, it works. I did get it to work. Same with the tumbler for the trunk. Maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not. To me, I always try and see if I can fix stuff like that. See, it's still not as smooth as it should be. Okay, before we start assembling this, we'll paint these wipers. We'll also paint the main wiper. Make sure you use a matte black paint on this, not a glossy. Of course, we'll wet sand it beforehand with a 400 grit. Got a few rock chips on here. We'll have to get this almost to bare steel. Now with this main wiper, see I took that big cover off. Don't do that. There is a hex bolt that's right in here. So this cover stays on. Take this hex bolt out, and then you'll need some sort of a pry bar to get in between here and pull that wiper off. It just slides right off. Okay, all this stuff is wet sanded. I will spray it with a flat black paint. We'll probably give her 3 or 4 coats, just light coats. Okay, we'll start by applying dielectric grease to all of these connections here. A lot of them are somewhat corroded. So all these plugins will treat with dielectric grease, so there's no issues. The fog lights have the same crap on them, that plastic, so we use the same process. Obviously don't use this process on anything that's plastic underneath. These are glass fog lights, so we can do the same thing as we did on the headlights. Unfortunately, the second fog light is all busted up. I'm having some hard time finding one. So hopefully I can find something before we go to put this together. Swap the motor for one of the headlights. Like I said, the other headlight was good, so I was able to clean it up. That one there. Swap the motor. This sucker. Looks like it's a couple 8mm bolts. Should just bolt right in, nothing to it. So obviously these castings and all that stuff was designed for both. It was just an option. Don't forget to plug in your water hose if you have the wipers on your car. So this is the passenger side. You can see here's your line. There's the fitting. I checked both these fittings when I had the lights out. Okay, headlights are in. I coat all the bolt heads with graphite spray. This stuff is awesome. Kind of comes with an applicator like the WD-40. And it dries like a nice dry film. So one of my fog lights is good, the other one busted up. Still not right through. I wasn't able to find anything in time. These aren't too bad to change. You just have to take the fender liner out. So I'm just gonna put this together as is, just so I don't have any parts lying around here. Okay, putting on the headlight trim on the bottom. Gonna make sure that gasket goes in where it belongs. It just presses in there easily. And now the moment of truth. Make sure I drilled my hole in the proper place. Ooh, look at that. She lines up. Beautiful. Okay, bumper's on. Looking good, guys. One-man job, really. And yeah, so that fog light's still busted up, but if you look under here, very easy access to it. Right, guys, we've got all that stuff on. Fresh clips. Now we'll put on the thermometer. And these air ducts have to be tightened up yet. And we'll be done with this. Okay, guys. Thermometer is in. Bumper is basically done. Now we're gonna install the wipers on the headlights and we're finished. Headlight wipers are on. When you guys are putting these on, make sure you give her a nice hard press so the little nipple seats for the windshield washer. Okay, guys, all back together, looking pretty. Now we're ready for a major detail. Hopefully this weather smartens up so I can take it on the road. Take it in, get the exhaust looked at. We'll wash it and then we'll bring it back here and detail the crap out of this. This will come out like new. Now that we've got all of these issues resolved. Oh, the trunk is good now. Oh, let's fire this up. But we have no key.